Good morning, wrestling fans. Today is Thursday, October 19th, 2023. Lance Brock here. Hoping everyone is having an awesome Thursday this morning so far. Lance Brock here to talk some pro wrestling on this Thursday episode. Hopefully, everyone tuned in last night for the new episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic, talking all about last night's AEW Dynamite. If for some reason you missed that, you can catch it right here on Spreaker or anywhere else you listen to 360 Wrestling Podcast. Any of the platforms. I know I don't talk about that as much as I should. Of course, the main place to listen is right here on Spreaker, but also YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, CastBox, Podcast Addict. Pretty much almost anywhere you can listen to podcasts. You can listen to 360 Wrestling Podcast. And while you're there, if you listen on one of the podcatchers like Apple Podcasts or whichever one you listen to on, maybe you can be nice and give a star rating. Doesn't even have to be 5 stars, but maybe it would be nice if it was 5, or maybe even leave a nice review about the podcast if you would like to. But you don't have to, though. That would be nice and help out like Colt Cabana would say, the algorithm of the podcast. So last night talked about AEW Dynamite. One of the biggest things definitely to come from the show was the announcement from the Icon Sting announcing his retirement. Revolution 2024 is when he will be having his final match. And based on the promo that he cut last night, it does sound like that is it this time. He even mentioned when he did a quote thing with his fingers, retired when he had his WWE run. He said that with Sting, one thing is for sure, nothing is for sure. Hope I didn't mess that up too bad. But he said, this time it is for sure. And definitely a long, legendary career in the business. I talked about this on 360 Wrestling Fanatic last night. Definitely, if I had to say which, as long as I've been watching pro wrestling, which is just about my whole life, if I just had to pick one wrestler that I'd say, as long as I've been watching, as long as I loved pro wrestling, one wrestler that is my favorite, I'd have to say Sting. And maybe my second choice would probably be The Undertaker. And then also put Macho Man in that conversation as well. But number one, if I had to pick a number one, I'd probably go with Sting as my favorite of all time. And in my opinion, people do talk about Sting when they talk about the greatest of all time, but I don't know if he's usually at the top of the list when people talk about People say Ric Flair, they bring up Shawn Michaels, and guys like that, and then usually after they bring up Sting, but usually Sting is definitely one of the first ones that I mention when I talk about the best of all time. That's just me though. And also last night on Impact Wrestling, Juice Robinson winning the Dynamite Dozen Battle Royal. He will now face MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, the AEW World Champion, and one half of the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions for that Dynamite Diamond Ring. If you followed AEW in its history the whole time, you know that MJF is the only winner of the Dynamite Diamond Ring. No one else has even had it other than MJF. So, and I don't see that changing. I don't really see him losing to Juice Robinson, especially this close to Full Gear, when he'll be defending the AEW World Championship against Switchblade Jay White of Bullet Club Gold, who has possession of the AEW World Championship. And that was AEW Dynamite last night. And tonight we have Impact Wrestling on Access TV, which is the go-home before Bound for Glory this Saturday on pay-per-view. Definitely looking forward to Bound for Glory this year. And I always talk about, I think Impact Wrestling, unfortunately, isn't on people's radar of when it comes to pro wrestling these days. And it's a real shame because Impact Wrestling has been great as of late. It's just a lot of people that are just casual fans. Sorry, that rude car drove by. Even though someone was walking by doing a podcast. Very rude of people. But they definitely don't get as much credit as they deserve right now. And I know it's not on people's radar as much. Say some casual fans, if you ask them about TNA and they say, oh, TNA, that's not around anymore, right? They don't realize that it is. It's just not TNA anymore. It's Impact Wrestling. And they think Impact Wrestling, what's that? But they don't realize. And also Access TV, which is owned by Anthem, Impact's parent company. Not really they're in a lot of homes, I would say, but the satellite companies, the cable companies, the ones that do have access, you usually have to subscribe to probably one of the premium packages, one of the more expensive ones to get it. But me, luckily, Access TV is available on Sling, so I am able to watch Impact every Thursday, and then right after is New Japan Pro Wrestling. Tonight, I hope to have a new episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic talking Impact Wrestling and Ring of Honor on Honor Club, so stay tuned for that. And that is all for this Thursday morning episode of Good Morning Wrestling Fans. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. If you have any questions, comments, or if you want to leave your feedback or opinions on last night's AEW Dynamite, you can in the comment section right here on Spreaker, YouTube, or whichever podcast app or website you listen to on. And once again, hope to be back tonight for 360 Wrestling Fanatic. And I will be back tomorrow for the Friday episode of Good Morning Wrestling Fans. So hope everyone enjoys Impact Wrestling and Ring of Honor tonight. And I will talk to everyone tomorrow morning for GMWF. But until then, have a great pro wrestling day.